So I'm like a huge Guy Ritchie fan.
Yeah.
Snatch is like one of my favorites of all time. And then when The Gentleman came out, I think I watched it 3 times in like the first week, and then I like rewatched it again recently. There's something so like unique and interesting about his style, right? Like a Guy Ritchie movie when you see it. And I'm just super curious, like what are some of the things that kind of stood out during the filming process where...
Right. Yeah. So one of the main things that stood out for all of us is ignore the script. The script don't mean nothing. So our first day of filming, we're sat in the back of the truck and it's just before we're about to run into the weed farm to like raid it. We're sat in the back of the truck. Guy, we hear 5 minutes before we're filming. So we're like, cool. Getting ready to say our lines. We just heard the door knock at the back of the van and it was Guy, first time we've properly seen him. So he's coming and gone, all right, wait, forget the scripts. What do you want to call yourself? And I'm like, what? He's like, what do you want to call yourself? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm going off of the character name. I ain't really thought about my own name. He's like, all right, forget this, 5 minutes. You've all got 5 minutes to think of your own name. I'm coming back. So he's left. And all of the cast members just looked, we were all looking at each other like, yo, what are you going to call yourself? And he's like, I don't know. The other one's like, I don't know. So he's come back in and I watched the episode of Power the night before. For some random reason, I was watching Power. And he said, what do you want to call yourself? I just went, Ghost. And he went, ooh, I like that. What do you want to call yourself? So he done all the names and then he turned around and was like, what's your slogan? I was like, he's like, all right, forget this. 5 more minutes, I'm coming back. So he comes back, and then he goes, what's your slogan? So we were all in the back of this truck just looking at each other saying these random slogans. I remember I was all laughing at each other. It was beautiful. And then I just turned around to him and went, Ghost, you'll never see me coming. And then he went, all right, but now say you'll never see me coming. And that was what then got put in. So I was like, all right, cool. And then next scene, got to it. He's like, okay, forget your lines. No lines. You say this. I'm like, say this. Great. You say this. He makes all the lines up on the spot. So when you get the script, you might in the script say you have 1 line. By the end of the film, you could probably have 50. Like, that's how he works. It's like a collaboration on the day. Everything gets made on the day, unless it's one of the big, one of the big setups. But all our scenes, we all had to improv on the day, which was intimidating. Because, us as young actors, we're looking at Guy Ritchie as, yo, this is Guy, do you know what I mean? It's like, I watched Snatch, Lock, Stock, all of these films growing up and was like, never really had the thought process when I was younger to be like, I would love to be in one of them. But as I got older and into my career, I was like, yo, I'd love to do a Guy Ritchie film. So now I'm here looking at him, I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I do a good job here. So when he's telling you to improv, there was so much pressure. But I feel like how he works and how he is with him as a person just made you feel a lot more comfortable. Do you know what I mean? He was very welcoming. And so his process was very, everything is made up. Everything is improv, which is interesting. I feel like that's why he gets the best out of people. Yeah. And sometimes, and it's not everyone. So it's like he has a team that he's worked with for years. They do all his films with him. So I feel like anyone that now, so even me now, I've just done a second film with him. So I feel like what happens is that when he works with you, if you can work how he works, then you're good, you're okay. And as long as you're professional and you do your thing, then I feel like that's why he always uses a lot of the same people, because it's all that process that he needs everyone to be able to do. So he's a very funny and special and beautiful man. And it was incredible working with him, but it was very, again, intimidating because it was just, you didn't know what was going to happen on the day. It was just, you turn up and be like, you're doing this. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
one quick note before we jump over it, like, that's incredibly surprising to me just because how detailed and intricate the dialogue is in some scenes, right? So I could totally see it for like some stuff, but when you're like, the dialogue is so incredible and fast paced and engaging and like you have to keep up.
But I think that's what he did with us. I think because of us as the toddlers, he wanted us to be fresh. So naturally we didn't really get to see a lot of the scenes with the others. So I don't know what the process was like with that, but I would have assumed he kept the lines as the lines because it was a lot more detailed in telling the story. Whereas with us, he could have the freedom with us because we could be the team that came in and just lived in the moment and gave it a bit of something. Do you know what I mean? Whereas instead of it being, so I know from doing the second film with him that not every scene is written on the day. There are some scenes that he has where it's like, it stays as that. Do you know what I mean? And it was because we did a scene where Colin Farrell comes into the boxing gym and him, Bugsy, and one of the other guys, Chris, their scene didn't get touched. It was the way it was written in the script was how we did it on the day. But in terms of us first coming in and creating this energy, I feel like he felt when he read it, nah, this could have more energy. And I feel like if I get them to naturally be them, that's going to bring that character out. So I feel like that was the smart thing that he did. He was like, let me trust these lot to bring them to it. So now going throughout the film, that energy is naturally going to be there instead of trying to create this fake version of this. Do you know what I mean? So
makes sense.
He's a genius. With how he does it, he's a genius. Even just his process is, I have to take my hat off to him. I ain't worked with someone like that before. So it was incredible. Yeah.
I got to go back and watch that film with after hearing that now.
Bro,
really, yeah.
It was, I remember watching it and at the first time at the premiere, and I was like, Guy has now gone back to doing Guy Ritchie films. It was like, you know, I've respected what he's done for years, but I feel like The Gentleman was a film where everyone went, yeah, this reminds me like a New Day, Snatch or Lock, Stock sort of feeling. And I feel
100%.
like he knew in his head what he was doing when he wrote The Gentleman. I think he knew. He was like, yep, this is another one. And from the, the reviews and stuff that we had, it definitely was. And it was incredible, man. It was incredible.
Super jealous. I love hearing about that.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you said you did a second film with him, The Covenant?
Yes,
right?
yes, which was, again, another surreal moment. I did one audition in my front room with my friend, and a month later got the call and was like, they want to offer you the part. I said, all right, cool. We didn't then know, no, we did. So I got a phone call, they said they want to offer you, and they said, yeah, you'll be starring alongside Jake Gyllenhaal. And I went, oh my Lord. I remember being with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I was just like, yo, but she didn't know who he was. So I was like, oh, you're not on my vibe right now. I called my mom, I called my brother. I was like, yo, this is going on. They're like, yeah. So we got to set, and I'm playing an American soldier in the film. So it's his first ever war film. Yeah, his first ever war film. I hope that's right, unless I've got that totally wrong. But no,
right.
Yes, I definitely think it, because I know he's filming another one at the minute, but it's based more on like World War II. But this was his first ever war film and approach to it. So again, got to the hotel, reading the lines, and I went, something in me went, don't put too much pressure because I feel like he might change this. So turn up on set, walk there, Jake Gyllenhaal was standing here. I'm just like, yo, this is surreal. I'm like, what is going on here? Guy comes out of his trailer with his proper like lad walk. He's like, right, you say this. I'm like, oh, I knew it. But where the pressure was, it was my first time doing the American accent for a job. So one, it was that pressure already, it being my first job. Two, I'm now doing it in front of Guy Ritchie. And three, Jake Gyllenhaal standing right here. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you couldn't have put more pressure on me if you wanted. So I did it. And I remember just like kind of looking at Jake as if to say he was gonna like, oh. And he looked at me and went, oh, yes. So then we did the scene, and it was interesting because we played SAS soldiers, so special forces, and I've done an army show before, but we just played normal squaddies. So like your whole training for it was different. So we had a boot camp for 2 weeks, where the military advisor on it was incredible, a guy called Kawa. And he taught us everything about being a special forces soldier, how you approach, how you gun, how everything you handle, your mannerisms, everything. And so he allowed us to feel a lot more comfortable within the role. And what is crazy, you will know this, it's like when you play a character, you never really feel like the character until you're in costume.
Yeah.
As soon as you put a costume on, it changes everything. And then once you're in the space and the scene, you're like, okay, now I feel it. So a lot of us do self-tapes and it's just a white backdrop, a camera. You're not in the scene, so you're trying to give the best version of what you would do in the scene. So when you get on set, it was like him training us and then us already practicing with the American and so forth. It was like a lot easier to do it. And there was one scene that we had to shoot in there that was one of the craziest scenes I've ever done. There's this like crazy, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say certain things, but there was just a crazy gunfight scene in the film where it was just a lot happening and I lose my voice quick. So obviously in the scene, it's shouting. By the time it got to me being at the last few takes of my scene, I was just like, couldn't say nothing. So we had to like do ADR for it. I was just like, couldn't get my words and I was like, no, don't do this now. I was
Dude.
Oh, it was mental, but it was like doing it, what was incredible was working along so many amazing people. And also I watched Jake perform, and what it showed me is it's okay to mess up. I feel like as a young, new, upcoming actor, it's a thing of we put this pressure on ourselves that don't mess up, you can't, everyone's watching you. Well, in actual fact, it's okay to mess up. As I said earlier, it's like we mess up in life. As long as we can, step away from it, correct ourselves and come back, there's no reason. And I watched him do this scene where I could see that he knew where he wanted to go with it, but he couldn't quite get there. And what was happening, he would go for it and then just stop, go back, go again. And then he did it about 4 or 5 times. I remember just watching going, it's okay to mess up. And watching, I think, someone of that caliber and that class do that and just handle it so professionally just made me go, cool. I know how to approach certain situations now on set. Because again, you get on set, there's a lot of pressures, me being young and me just being, well, not just getting into it, but I feel like in terms of the jobs I'm now doing is now the step up. So it's now me learning and being like, I'm meant to be here. I'm good enough to be here. Hence why otherwise I wouldn't be here. And just allowing myself, if I do mess up, to have a breather and just come back at it. But yeah, it was surreal, man. And there was one scene where it's like I'm kind of carrying it with him. And I was reading the lines to the American military advisor just before, and he's like, "No, you sound good. You're good." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So then, just before I started to do the scene, Jay looked at me and was like, "You good with the lines, yeah?" And I was like, "Yeah." He went, "Okay, we'll see." Action. And I was just oh. And he didn't, because in my head I went, no, show him you got this. And there was just something in me of him saying that drove me to just be like, nah, I'm not going to have you do that. And I just went, boom, went in with these lines. And after I finished, he just looked again and just went. So for me, that was just like, yo, I just got the head nod from Big Jakey. I was like, yes, I'm good. And then I feel like after, and this was the job that I really realized about no notes was good notes. It was, a guy didn't come up to me once. He then would allow me to play around with my lines. He then would come up to me and be like, yo, what would you say here? And I'm going, oh, you're asking me. And it was the first time he came up to me specifically and was like, what would you want to say? And I'm like, I don't know. And we had like this beautiful moment of like just going back and forth with each other of like what the line should be. He would say what he thought it would be. I was like, no, I think this. And I was just like, yo, I'm fully collaborating now with someone that I've watched your stuff with for years. And on the first film, The Gentleman, I was so like, nope, I'm okay, I'll say whatever you want. I feel like on this one, it was like, no, you're approaching me as another creator and you want to create something. So let's create. And we managed to come up with this line, which was mental, but it was fun to play it. And then I just feel like after when the film was done, I was just like, it's the most I've learned about me as a person. And also me, the most I've learned in terms of my capability of what I can do.
Thank you for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow our socials at Studio 22 Podcast.